Alright, so for today, I will be talking about the superpower of shapeshifting. This power can be very useful for when you need to disguise yourself. You can change your appearance to fit in with the people around you, and you'd go unnoticed. You could change yourself into a guard and sneak into heavily guarded buildings. Like if there was a bank or something that you wanted to steal from, you could transform into someone who has clearance to be in there and just walk right in. With this power of shapeshifting, you could also become very small and fit into very small spaces, like the space underneath the door, or if you wanted to hide somewhere, you could hide into a very small space. But if you wanted to become very, very large, depending on whether or not your power could break the law of conservation of matter, then growing yourself to a very, very large size would make you very light because your density would decrease so much that you'd probably blow away in the wind. Although, let's just say that for some reason, magically, this transformation power does allow you to increase your density and somehow magically breaks the law of conservation of matter and just makes some extra matter for your increased size when you grow to become bigger. This would be incredibly helpful because your arms would be bigger, so you'd be able to lift heavier, larger objects, and your legs would be longer, so you'd be able to run much quicker, which would be really helpful if you needed to quickly get to school or to work because you could just really quickly run all the way over to there. So, also, depending on how your shape shifting power works, if you were stabbed or shot in the chest, you could just transform yourself into a version of yourself without this stab wound. But other times, the power doesn't necessarily work that way. And let's say if you had a stab wound in your chest and you transformed into a dog, you would instead transform into a dog with a stab wound in his chest. Also, another really great use of a transformation ability like shapeshifting is that you could basically stay eternally young and maybe live forever if you can also transform your cells without destroying the telomeres at the end of your cells, which are like a protective layer where every time your cells divide, you lose a bit of your telomeres. So even if you could transform to make yourself look younger, if your cells can't keep dividing, you would die eventually unless your transformation power also allowed you to edit the length of your telomeres. Then you would be able to live forever. But even if you couldn't live forever, you could at least look young for your entire life. Also, a really great use for shape shifting would be that you would never need to cut your hair again. And you could also try out a bunch of really nice or different hairstyles without having to worry about regrowing your hair or cutting it properly. But another thing about changing your appearance that I forgot about is that if you wanted to disguise yourself, depending on the limitations of your transformation ability, if you're only allowed to transform your body, then you couldn't transform your clothing to look like the person you're disguising as. But if you don't have that limitation, then there's a whole lot more things that you can do with this transformation ability. Alright, so make sure to like and subscribe to the video, and you will see me in the next video.